The Grand Academy of Galactic Sciences was the most famous school in the known universe. It floated in space near a planet called Valora Prime, a beautiful blue world where everything weighed very little, because the gravity was only 0.3 of the galactic standard. Beings from hundreds of different planets came here to learn, to teach, and to share knowledge with each other. The main building was made of crystal that caught the light of 3 distant suns. Inside, there were thousands of rooms filled with students who looked nothing like each other. Some had wings. Some had tentacles. Some floated in special water tanks because they came from ocean worlds. But they all came here for the same reason. They wanted to understand the universe. On this particular day, Professor Telvix was teaching a class about biology. Telvix was a Veluxi, a species that looked like tall, thin creatures made of pale blue glass. They had 4 arms, large dark eyes, and skin so thin you could almost see through it. Telvix had taught at the academy for over 200 years and was considered one of the smartest. Beings alive, the lecture hall was full. Students sat in floating chairs that adjusted to fit their different body shapes. There were Thornaki with their hard shells and strong claws. There were Mithrani who looked like silver ghosts and could float without any help. There were dozens of other species, all watching Professor Telvix with great attention. Today we will discuss something very important, Telvix said. The professor's voice was soft but clear, and the translation machines in the room changed the words so everyone could understand. We will talk about gravity and life. Why do some planets have creatures living on them, and why do others have nothing at all? Telvix waved one of their 4 arms, and a huge screen appeared in the air. It showed a chart with numbers and colors. Look at this data, Telvix continued. The Galactic Union has studied more than 40,000 planets. We have learned something very important. Life can only exist in certain conditions. Too much heat kills everything. Too much cold freezes everything. And too much gravity crushes everything. The students nodded. This was basic knowledge that everyone learned when they were young. The maximum gravity where complex life can develop is 0.7 standard units, Telvix explained. At 0.8, bones become too heavy to support bodies. At 0.9, hearts cannot pump blood against the weight. And at 1.0 standard gravity, which we call 1G, survival is completely impossible. No species in our records has ever evolved on a world with 1G gravity. Such planets are what we call death worlds. They are empty, lifeless rocks. A Thamnaki student raised one of his clawed hands. Professor, has the Union ever found any exceptions? Never, Telvix said firmly. In 40,000 years of space travel and exploration, we have never found intelligent life on any world above 7G. It simply cannot happen. The physics do not allow it. A being on a 1G world would need bones made of metal and muscles like ship engines. It is fantasy, not science. The students wrote notes and recorded the lecture. This would be on the exam dot in the very back of the room. There was a student that most of the others had not noticed. She was new, having arrived only yesterday on a transport ship from a system called Sol. She was small compared to most species in the room. She had brown skin, dark eyes, and black hair that she kept tied behind her head. Her name was Una Park, and she was what the galaxy called a human. Una had been listening quietly, but now she felt confused. She looked at the chart on the screen again. Then she looked at her own hands. Then she raised one of those hands. Professor Telvix noticed her. Yes, the new student from Sol System, correct? Do you have a question? I do, Una said. Her voice was calm and polite. You said no species can survive on a 1G world. That is correct. But Professor, Earth has exactly 1G gravity. That is where I am from. I lived there for 18 years before coming here. The lecture hall became very quiet. Several students turned in their floating chairs to look at the small being in the back row. Telvix made a sound that the translation machine turned into nervous laughter. I think there may be an error with your translator. Perhaps you mean 0, 1G? That would make more sense. No, Una said. She stood up from her chair. She was shorter than everyone else in the room, but she did not seem bothered by this. I mean 1.0. Standard gravity. That is normal on Earth. I grew up in it. I walked in it. I ran in it. I played sports and climbed mountains and swam in oceans. All at 1G. Telvix's forearms stopped moving. The professors stared at Una with their large, dark eyes. That cannot be correct. You would be crushed. Your bones would break. Your heart would fail. Una looked down at her own body, then back at the professor. I feel fine. I have always felt fine. Actually, everything here feels very light to me. I have to be careful not to jump too high or I might hit the ceiling. A Mithrani student near the front made a frightened sound. A Thornaki stood up from his chair, his shell clicking with alarm. If what you say is true, Professor Telvix said slowly, then everything we know about biology must be wrong. How is this possible? How are you standing here right now? How are you not crushed? Una thought about the question. She had never really considered it before. Gravity was just gravity. It was normal. It was home. I do not know how to answer that, she said honestly. On Earth, we do not think of our gravity as special or dangerous. It is just how things are. We are born in it. We live in it. We grow strong because of it, I suppose. The professor looked at Una for a long time. Then Telvix looked at the chart still floating in the air. The chart that said 1G worlds could not support life. Class is dismissed for today, Telvix announced. I need to make some calls. The students began to leave, but none of them could stop looking at Una. She gathered her simple bag and walked toward the door. Her footsteps were heavier than anyone else's. Each step made a small sound against the floor. A Veluxy student moved out of her way quickly. Pressing against the wall, Una noticed and tried to smile in a friendly way. I am sorry. I did not mean to cause trouble. The Veluxy student did not answer. They just stared at her with wide, frightened eyes. Una sighed and walked out of the lecture hall alone. She wondered if coming to this academy had been a mistake. She had just wanted to learn and make friends. Instead, she had accidentally told an entire classroom that everything they believed was wrong. Behind her, Professor Telvix was already sending emergency messages to the academy leadership. The subject line was simple: impossible biology confirmed. Humans are real. The galaxy was about to change forever. And it all started with one simple question in a lecture hall. The news about Una spread through the academy faster than light itself. By the next morning, everyone knew about the human student who claimed to come from a death world. Some believed her. Most thought it was a joke or a mistake. A few were scared. The academy leadership decided they needed proof. They sent a polite message to Una, asking her to visit the medical wing for some tests. Una agreed. She had nothing to hide, and she was curious about what they would find. The medical wing was on the 7th level of the academy. It was a bright, clean place, filled with machines that Una did not recognize. Doctors and scientists from different species worked there, helping students who got sick or injured. When Una arrived, she found that she was not alone. Another human had come to the academy on the same transport ship. His name was Taiho Kim. He was taller than Una, with short black hair and a serious face. He did not smile much, but Una knew he was kind underneath his quiet nature. They had grown up in the same city on Earth and had been friends since childhood. They asked you to come too. Una said, Yes, Taiho replied. They want to study us like we are strange animals. Maybe we are strange to them. Taiho made a small sound that might have been a laugh. Maybe. The head of the medical team was a Veluxi named Dr. Corin. Like Professor Telvix, Corin had 4 arms and thin, almost transparent skin. But Corin was younger and seemed more nervous. The doctor kept looking at the 2 humans like they might explode at any moment. Please, sit here, Corin said, pointing to 2 examination tables. We just want to run some basic scans. Nothing painful. We only want to understand. Yuna sat on one table and Taiho sat on the other. The tables were designed for beings much lighter than them. Yuna heard the material groan a little under her weight. Sorry, she said. No, it is fine, Corin said quickly. Please hold still. A machine shaped like a ring moved over Yuna's body. Blue light swept across her from head to toe. Numbers and images appeared on screens around the room. The scientists watching those screens began to make sounds of confusion and alarm. This must be an error, one of them said. It was a Mithrani named Elder Sylveth, the most senior researcher in the medical wing. Sylveth looked like a ghost made of silver mist, floating above the floor. Run the scan again. They ran it again. The results were the same. Our bone density, Sylveth said softly. It is higher than reinforced construction material. Her skeleton could support the weight of a small vehicle. Dr. Corinne was scanning Taiho at the same time. This one is the same. No, wait. His bones are even denser. And his muscle fibers. I have never seen anything like this. The concentration is 4 times higher than any species in our records. That makes sense, Taiho said calmly. Yuna was always more of a reader. I did more physical training. The scientists did not know how to respond to that. Elder Sylveth floated closer to the screen, showing Yuna's heart. The image showed a powerful organ, larger and stronger than it should be. It beat with a steady, heavy rhythm. Her heart, Sylveth whispered. It is like an engine. It pumps blood with enough force to push against constant gravitational pressure. Our hearts would fail in minutes under such conditions. Hers has been doing it every second of her life. Is that not normal? Yuna asked. She was genuinely confused. She had never thought much about her own body. It just worked. Normal? Dr. Corin's voice went high with stress. Child, nothing about you is normal. Your entire body is built like a machine of war. Your bones, your muscles, your heart, even your skin is thicker and tougher than most species. Taiho yawned. He was getting bored with all the scanning. Can we speed this up? I was going to explore the station today. A young Thornaki assistant dropped the tool he was holding. The sound echoed in the quiet room. You are not concerned? The assistant asked. You are not amazed by what you are? Taiho shrugged. I am just a human. There are 8 billion more like me back home. We are not special there. 8 billion? Sylveth repeated. The elder's silver form flickered, which was a sign of extreme emotion in their species. 8 billion beings with this biology? On a single world? Yes, Earth is pretty crowded, actually. The scientists looked at each other. The silence was heavy with meaning. A planet of 8 billion Death World survivors. 8 billion beings who could do what these 2 young people could do. Dr. Corin asked more questions. They learned that humans healed quickly from injuries. A broken bone would repair itself in weeks. A cut would close in days. Sickness was common on Earth, but humans had developed ways to fight it and usually recovered. We also adapt, Yuna added. If we move to a place with less gravity, our bodies become weaker over time. If we move to a place with more gravity, we become stronger. We change to fit our environment. Impossible, Sylveth said, but the word had lost its meaning. Everything about these humans was impossible, yet here they sat, Breathing and talking and being very real. The examination went on for 3 more hours. The scientists measured everything they could think of. They tested Yuna's grip strength and found she could crush metal with her bare hands if she wanted to. They tested Taiho's reaction speed and found he could move faster than their machines could track. They tested their eyes and found they could see in light conditions that would blind a vile Shi by the end. Dr. Curran looked exhausted. The doctor sat down in a floating chair and rubbed their large eyes with 2 of their 4 hands. "I have been a medical scientist for 60 years, Curran said quietly. "I thought I understood biology. I thought I knew what life could and could not do. Today, I learned that I know nothing." Yuna felt bad for the doctor. She had not meant to upset anyone. "I am sorry if this is difficult. We really are just normal people where we come from. That is what frightens me," Curran admitted. "If you are normal, what are your exceptional individuals like?" Yuna and Taiho looked at each other. They thought about the athletes back home, the soldiers, the martial artists, the people who trained their whole lives to push human limits even further. "You probably do not want to know," Taiho said. Curran nodded slowly. "I was afraid you would say that." Elder Sylveth had been quiet for a while, floating near the ceiling and thinking. Now the silver being descended to speak with the humans directly. "I must ask you something important," Sylveth said. "Why did you come here? To the Academy? To the Galactic Union? What do humans want?" It was a big question. Yuna thought about it carefully before answering. "We want to learn," she said. "We want to meet new people and see new places. We want to understand the universe. We want friends." She paused. "Is that so strange?" Sylvia studied her for a long moment. "No, that is not strange at all. It is perhaps the most normal thing anyone has ever said in this room today." The examination was over. Yuna and Taiho were free to go. As they walked out of the medical wing, Yuna noticed that every being they passed moved out of their way. The hallways were not crowded, but still, everyone gave them space. "They are afraid of us," Yuna said quietly. "Yes," Taiho agreed. "But fear can become respect. And respect can become friendship. We just need to show them who we really are." Yuna hoped he was right. She had come to the stars looking for wonder and connection. She had not expected to become the wonder herself. Behind them, in the medical wing, Dr. Korn was already writing a report. The title was simple but accurate. Everything we knew was wrong. 2 weeks passed since the medical examination. The reports had been shared with the Academy leadership, and from there, the information had leaked to everyone. Now the whole station was talking about the humans. Yuna tried to live a normal student life. She went to her classes, studied in the library, and ate her meals in the common areas. But everywhere she went, she felt eyes watching her. Students whispered when she walked by. Teachers treated her differently, sometimes with fear and sometimes with too much kindness. Taiho handled the attention in his own way. He ignored it completely. He focused on his studies and his exercise routine. Every morning, he went to the physical training center to work out. The center had equipment designed for many different species, but none of it was heavy enough for Taiho. He had to stack multiple weights together just to feel any resistance. Not everyone in the academy believed the reports. Some students thought the whole thing was a trick or an exaggeration. The loudest of these doubters was Instructor Gavix. Gavix was a Thornaki, a species that looked like large insects with hard shells and powerful claws. The Thornaki came from a 05G world and were known as the strongest beings in the Galactic Union. They were proud of this reputation. Gavix had been a champion athlete before becoming a teacher, and he did not like the idea that some small, Soft creatures from an unknown world could be stronger than his people. "I do not believe it," Gavix announced one day in the training center. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "These humans are lying. No one is stronger than a Thornaki. It is physically impossible." Taiho was nearby, doing his morning exercises. He heard Gavix, but did not respond. He had learned long ago that arguing with loud people was usually a waste of time, but Gavix would not let it go. He walked over to where Taiho was training and stood in front of him. Gavix was bigger, with thick armor plates covering his body and 4 muscular arms ending in sharp claws. "You," Gavix said. "Human, I challenge you to a test of strength. Let us see what you can really do." Taiho stopped his exercise and looked at the Thornaki. "I am not interested in fighting. Not a fight. Just a test. Lift some weights. Show everyone the truth." Gavix made a clicking sound with his mandibles that the translator turned into laughter. "Unless you are afraid." "I am not afraid," Taiho said calmly. "I am just not interested in proving anything to you." By now, a crowd had gathered. Students from many species stood around the training center, watching the confrontation. Yuna pushed through the crowd and reached Taiho's side. "What is happening?" she asked. "Instructor Gavix wants me to lift weights," Taiho said. "He thinks we are liars." Yuna looked at the Thornaki. She could see the pride and stubbornness in his posture. She also saw something else. Behind the bravado, Gavix was nervous. He was not sure the humans were lying, and that uncertainty scared him. "Maybe you should do it," Yuna said quietly to Taiho. Not to prove anything to him, but to help everyone understand. Right now, they are afraid because they do not know what we can do. Maybe if they see, they will stop being so scared. Taiho thought about this. He did not care about Gavix's opinion, but Yuna had a point. The fear and suspicion around them was getting worse. A clear demonstration might actually help. "Fine," Taiho said. "Let us do this test." Gavix looked surprised, then pleased. He had expected more resistance. "Good. Come. We will use the standard Thornaki strength weights." The crowd followed them to a section of the training center where heavy blocks of metal sat on the floor. These were the weights used by Thornaki athletes. Each block weighed 60 standard units, roughly equivalent to how much a strong Thornaki could lift. "Start with 1, Gavix commanded. Taiho walked to the first block. It was a solid cube of dark metal, designed with handles on 2 sides. He bent down, gripped the handles, and stood up. The block came with him easily. He lifted it to his chest, then pressed it over his head. His arms did not shake at all. The crowd murmured. "Add another," Gavix said, his voice less confident now. A training assistant rolled a second block next to the first. Taiho set down the first block, then lifted both together. 120 standard units. He held them overhead for 5 seconds before putting them down. Another. 3 blocks. 180 units. Taiho lifted them. His face showed effort now, but his body remained steady. Another. 4 blocks. 240 units. This was more than any Thornaki had ever lifted in competition. Taiho gripped all 4 blocks, took a breath, and pulled. The metal rose from the floor. He got them to his chest, paused, then pushed them overhead. His muscles stood out against his skin. He held the position for 3 seconds, then carefully lowered the weights. The training center was completely silent. Gavix stared at the human. His mandibles had stopped clicking. His forearms hung loose at his sides. "One more," Taiho said. "Give me 5. "That is not necessary," Gavix said quickly. "The test is complete. You wanted to see what I can do. Let me show you." The 5th block was added. 300 standard units. No being in Union history had lifted this much without mechanical assistance. Taiho stood before the 5 blocks. He rolled his shoulders, stretched his neck, and focused. Then he grabbed the handles and pulled with all his strength. The blocks rose. Slowly, with great effort, they came off the floor. Taiho brought them to his waist, then his chest. His whole body was tight with strain. Sweat appeared on his forehead. He let out a controlled breath and pushed. The 5 blocks went overhead. 300 standard units, held in the air by a single human from a death world. Taiho held the position for 10 seconds. The crowd counted each one in breathless silence. Then he lowered the weights with careful control and stepped back. He was breathing hard now, but he was not exhausted. He could have done more if there had been more weight to lift. A young Veluxy student in the crowd spoke first. "How is this possible? What are you?" "I am human," Taiho said simply. "I am nothing special among my people. There are many on Earth who could lift more than me." "More?" someone else said. "How much more?" Taiho thought about it. "The strongest humans can lift about twice what I just did. Some can do even more with the right training." The crowd processed this information in stunned silence. Gavix had not moved. The proud Thornaki instructor stood still, his shell seeming smaller than before. Finally, he spoke. "I was wrong," Gavix said. The words seemed to hurt him. "You are not liars. You are something we have never seen before. We are just people from a heavy world," Yuna said gently. "We grew up fighting gravity every day. It made us strong. But strength is not everything. We came here to learn from you, not to show off." Gavix looked at her with new eyes. "You could destroy us," he said quietly. "If your people wanted to, you could break this station apart with your bare hands." "We could," Taiho admitted. "But we would never do that. We came in peace. We want to be your friends, not your enemies." A Mithrani student floated forward from the crowd. "Why? Why would beings as powerful as you want to be friends with us? We are weak compared to you." Yuna smiled. It was a warm smile, full of kindness. "Because strength is lonely. Because we have learned that the best things in life come from connection, not power. Because we look at all of you and see wonders that we could never imagine on our own." She looked around at the different species watching her. "You can float through the air. You can see colors we cannot see. You can live for hundreds of years. You have built a union of thousands of worlds. These are amazing things. We want to be part of it." The tension in the training center began to fade. Not completely, but enough. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Curiosity. Interest, the beginning of understanding. Gavix straightened his shell and clicked his mandibles in a different pattern. The translator said it meant respect. "I have been a fool," Gavix said. "I let my pride blind me. The Thornaki were strong because we knew nothing stronger. Now we do. Perhaps this is a gift, not a threat." Taiho nodded at the instructor. "We can train together sometime, if you want. I could use a partner who can actually keep up." For the first time, Gavix made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I would like that, human. I would like that very much." The crowd slowly dispersed. Students returned to their activities, but everything felt different now. The humans were no longer frightening mysteries. They were still strange and impossible. But they were also real people who wanted the same things everyone else wanted. Yuna and Taiho walked out of the training center together. "That went better than I expected," Yuna said. "Yes," Taiho agreed. "But we still have a long way to go. One test does not change everything. No, but it is a start." They walked back to their quarters, and for the first time since arriving at the academy, no one moved out of their way in fear. 3 months had passed since Yuna and Taiho arrived at the academy. Life had become almost normal. They attended classes, made friends, and slowly earned the trust of their fellow students. The fear had not disappeared completely, but it had faded into something more like respect. Then the emergency alert came. Yuna was in her room studying when her communicator lit up with a priority message. She read it quickly, and her heart dropped. A research station on a moon called Callus 7 had gone silent. The last transmission reported an attack by pirates. 42 scientists from various Union species were being held hostage. Among them was a name that made Yuna's blood run cold. Ji-Woo Song, her childhood friend. The person who had convinced her to apply to the academy in the first place. Ji-Woo had not come to the academy with Yuna and Taiho. Instead, she had taken a position at the Callus 7 research station, studying rare minerals. She was a geologist, not a fighter. She had no way to defend herself against pirates. Yuna ran to find Taiho. He had already received the same alert and was putting on his shoes when she burst into his room. "You saw the message," he said. It was not a question. "Ji-Woo is there," Yuna said. "We have to help her." "I know. I'm coming with you." They went together to the security office on the 4th level of the academy. The room was crowded with Union officers discussing the situation. Holographic maps floated in the air, showing the location of Callus 7 and the layout of the research station. A cartographic verification of Callus 7 and the location of Callus 7 and the layout of the research station. A tall Mithrani named Commander Solith was leading the meeting. Solith was the head of security for this sector of space, and they looked stressed. The silver form flickered constantly, a sign of great worry. "The situation is difficult," Solith was explaining to the gathered officers. "The pirates are from the Ravik Syndicate. They are well armed and have taken defensive positions inside the station. They have also increased the internal gravity to 0.8 as a defensive measure." A Thornaki officer made a growling sound. 0.8 G? Our soldiers can barely walk in those conditions. They would be exhausted in minutes. "That is the point," Solus said grimly. "The Raviks know that high gravity stops us. They are using it as a shield. What about the hostages?" Another officer asked. "The Raviks have made demands. They want a ransom of 10 million standard credits and safe passage out of Union space. If their demands are not met in 12 hours, they will begin killing hostages." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the Union did not pay ransoms. It would only encourage more kidnappings. But without a way to breach the station, there was no way to save the hostages. Yuna stepped forward. "We can help." Every head in the room turned to look at her. Commander Solus' silver form stopped flickering with surprise. "You are the human students," Solus said. "This is a military matter. You are civilians. We are also the only beings in this sector who can function normally in 0.8 G, Taiho said. He stepped up beside Yuna. "For us, that gravity is light. We could run and fight in it without any problem." The officers looked at each other uncertainly. This was not standard procedure. "You are not trained soldiers," the Tharnaki officer protested. "No," Taiho agreed. "But you just explained that your trained soldiers cannot even stand up in there." "We can. We are your only option." Solith was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, the commander made a decision. "Tell me what you need." 6 hours later, Yuna and Taiho were aboard a stealth transport approaching Callus 7. They wore light tactical gear borrowed from the Union military. Behind them, a team of Union Marines sat in heavy armor, struggling with the increased gravity even inside the ship. The pilot's voice came over the speakers. Approaching the station. "We have found a maintenance airlock on the lower level. The Raviks do not seem to know about it." "Good," Solus said over the communication channel. "Humans, You will enter first. The Marines will follow as backup, but in that gravity, they will not be able to move quickly. You will be on your own. Yuna checked her gear one more time. She had refused to carry a gun. Guns were not something she knew how to use, and she was afraid of hurting hostages by mistake. Instead, she carried a set of tools for opening locks and disabling electronics. Taiho had also refused a gun, but for a different reason. His hands were weapon enough. The transport docked silently with the station. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Immediately, Yuna felt the increased gravity pull at her body. It was heavier than the Academy, heavier than most places in the Union. It felt like home. "Let us go," she said to Taiho. They moved into the station. The corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lights. The station had been designed for Veluxi researchers, so the ceilings were high and the walls were thin. Yuna could hear sounds in the distance, voices, footsteps. The Ravix were somewhere ahead. They reached a junction in the corridor. Taiho held up a hand, signaling Yuna to stop. He listened carefully. 3 guards ahead, he whispered. About 20 meters. They are talking to each other. They do not know we are here. The hostages? Probably in the central area. We need to clear the path. Taiho moved forward silently. For a man his size, he could be very quiet when he wanted to be. Yuna followed, keeping close to the wall. They found the 3 guards around the next corner. The Reviks were ugly creatures with gray skin, 4 eyes, and mouths full of sharp teeth. They wore armor and carried weapons, but they looked bored. They had been standing in this corridor for hours, waiting for something to happen. They did not expect something to happen so suddenly. Taiho moved faster than anyone in the Union had ever seen a living being move. He crossed the distance to the first guard in less than a second. His fist connected with the Revavix's chest armor with enough force to dent the metal and send the pirate flying backward into the wall. The guard hit with a crash and did not get up. The other 2 guards turned toward the sound. They saw a human standing where their companion had been. Their 4 eyes went wide with confusion. Taiho did not give them time to understand. He grabbed the second guard by the arm and threw him at the third. Both pirates went down in a tangle of limbs. Before they could recover, Taiho was on them. 3 quick strikes later, all 3 guards were unconscious. The whole fight had taken less than 10 seconds. "Clear," Taiho said. Yuna stepped over the fallen guards. She felt no sympathy for them. These beings had taken innocent people hostage. They had threatened to kill them. Whatever happened to them, they had earned it. They continued deeper into the station. Yuna disabled security systems while Taiho dealt with any guards they encountered. The Reviks never saw him coming. In the heavy gravity that slowed everyone else, Taiho moved like a ghost made of iron. They found the first group of hostages in a storage room near the center of the station. 20 frightened scientists huddled together, guarded by 2 Ravix pirates. The guards saw Yuna first. They raised their weapons. But before they could fire, Taiho came through the door behind them. 2 quick movements to falling bodies. 2 more unconscious pirates. The hostages stared at their rescuers in disbelief. "Union Rescue Team," Yuna said calmly. "We are here to get you out. Is anyone hurt?" A Veluxi scientist shakily pointed down another corridor. The others. They took them to the control room. They said they would use them as shields if anyone tried to attack. Yuna nodded. "Stay here. Help is coming." She and Taiho ran toward the control room. The gravity pulled at them with every step, but they barely noticed. This was easy. This was nothing compared to running up hills on Earth. Nothing compared to playing sports in summer heat with the full weight of their world pressing down on them. The control room door was locked. Yuna could hear voices inside. The Ravix leader was shouting orders. sounding panicked. Somehow, he had learned that his guards were being taken down one by one. "Open it," Taiho said. Yuna worked on the lock. It was a complex system designed to keep out intruders. She cracked it in 30 seconds. The door slid open. Inside, 6 Ravix pirates stood in a circle around a group of hostages. The lead pirate held a weapon pointed at the head of a young human woman with short black hair. "Jiwoo, stop!" The pirate leader screamed. "Come any closer, and I kill her." Taiho stopped. Yuna stopped. The situation was dangerous. One wrong move and Jiwoo would die. But Jiwoo was looking at her childhood friends with recognition in her eyes. She was scared, but she was also thinking. Her eyes moved slightly to the left. Yuna understood. On the left side of the room, there was a control panel. The emergency lighting switch. Yuna moved her hand slowly to her belt. She had brought a small tool that could short-circuit electronics at a distance. She had hoped she would not need it. She pressed the button. The lights went out. The Ravix could not see in the dark. But humans could see well enough. In the split second of confusion, Taiho moved. He grabbed the arm holding the weapon and twisted. The pirate leader screamed as his limb broke. The weapon fell. Taiho caught it before it hit the ground. Yuna reached Jiwoo and pulled her away from the fighting. Behind them, Taiho was finishing the job. In complete darkness, moving only by sound and instinct, he disabled the remaining pirates one by one. The lights came back on. Emergency power had restored them. The control room was a mess. 6 Ravix pirates lay on the floor, unconscious or groaning in pain. Not one hostage had been harmed. Jiwoo threw her arms around Yuna and started crying. "You came. I cannot believe you came. Of course we came." 1 week after the rescue at Calith 7, the Grand Academy held a special assembly. Every student and teacher was required to attend. Representatives from the Galactic Union Council traveled from distant worlds to be there. This was not a normal meeting. This was history. The Great Assembly Hall was the largest room in the Academy. It could hold 10,000 beings of all shapes and sizes. Today, it was completely full. Floating chairs filled every level. Screens projected the event to those who could not fit inside. The entire sector was watching. Professor Telvix stood at the central podium. The old Veluxi looked different than before. Smaller, somehow. More humble. The certainty that had defined their lectures for 200 years was gone. "I have spent my entire career teaching facts," Telvix began. The professor's voice was quiet but clear, carried by speakers throughout the hall. "I taught that gravity shapes life. I taught that heavy worlds are death worlds where nothing intelligent can grow. I taught that the universe has rules that cannot be broken." Telvix paused and looked toward the section where the human students sat. There were 5 of them now. Yuna and Taiho had been joined by Jiwoo, who had decided to transfer to the academy after her rescue. 2 more humans had arrived on the latest transport from Earth. Their names were Minho Lee and Sorahan. They sat together, looking uncomfortable with all the attention. "I was wrong," Telvix said simply. "Everything I taught about the limits of biological life was wrong. Humans exist. They come from a world with 1G gravity, a world we would have called impossible. They are not mutants or machines or tricks. They are living proof that life finds a way, even in conditions we thought were deadly." The hall was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. "In the past week, we've all seen what humans can do," Telvix continued. "We watched recordings of 2 young people, students at this academy, defeat an entire pirate force in conditions that would have killed most of us. We read the medical reports that show their impossible biology. We have had time to think about what this means." On the elevated platforms around the hall, the Union Council members watched carefully. The eldest among them was Representative Morth. a Veluxi who had lived for over 500 years. Morith's skin was almost completely transparent with age, and wisdom filled their ancient eyes. "What does it mean?" Morith asked. "That is the question everyone is asking. What does the existence of humans mean for our union?" Telvik stepped aside and gestured toward the human section. "Perhaps we should ask them." Yuna felt hundreds of eyes turn toward her. She had not planned to speak. She was a student, not a politician or a diplomat. But Taiho nudged her arm, and Jiwoo gave her an encouraging nod. Slowly, Yuna stood up. The hall seemed to grow even quieter. "I do not know what our existence means for your union," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, but inside she was nervous. "I am just a student. I came here to learn about the galaxy, not to change it. But I can tell you why we came and what we hope to find." She took a breath and continued. "Humans have always been curious. Even when we were simple creatures living in caves on Earth, we looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. We made up stories about the lights in the sky. We dreamed of other worlds and other beings. When we finally developed the technology to reach space, we were so excited. We thought we would find wonders beyond our imagination." Yuna looked around the hall at all the different species watching her. Thornaki with their armored shells. Veluxi with their delicate forms. Mithrani floating like silver ghosts. Dozens of others she did not know the names of yet. "We did find wonders," she said. "We found you. All of you. Species that can float through the air. Species that can see colors we cannot even imagine. Species that live for hundreds of years and have built civilizations older than our entire history. You are the wonders we dreamed about." A murmur went through the crowd. This was not what they had expected to hear. "We know we are different," Yuna continued. "We know we are strong and fast and hard to hurt. We know that our home world would kill most of you. But we did not come here to show off our strength. We came here because we were lonely." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "Earth is the only 1G world with intelligent life that anyone has ever found. For thousands of years, we looked at the sky and wondered if we were alone. That loneliness drove us crazy sometimes. It made us do terrible things to each other because we had no one else to compare ourselves to. When we found out about the Union, about all of you, we were so happy. We were not alone anymore." Yuna's voice grew stronger. "We do not want to conquer you. We do not want to rule you. We do not want to frighten you. We want to be your friends. We want to learn from you and share what we know. We want to explore the universe together and see all the amazing things it holds." She looked at Representative Morith directly. "You asked what humans want. That is my answer. We want friendship. We want connection. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves." "Is that so hard to believe?" The hall was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Jiwoo started clapping. Her hands came together again and again, the sound echoing in the quiet space. Taeho joined her. Then Minho and Sora. A Veluxi student near the front tentatively touched their 4 hands, together in their species version of applause. Then more joined. Thornaki clicked their shells. Mithrani hummed with approval. The sound grew and grew until the entire assembly hall was filled with the noise of thousands of beings expressing support in dozens of different ways. Yuna sat down quickly, embarrassed by the attention. But she was smiling. Representative Morith raised a thin, transparent hand. The applause slowly faded. "I have lived for 500 years, Morith said. I have seen many things that surprise me. Wars and peace. Discoveries and disasters. New species joining the Union and old ones fading away. But I have never seen anything like this." The ancient Veluxi's eyes focused on the 5 humans sitting together. "You come from a world that should not exist. Your bodies can do things that should be impossible. You have strength that could make you conquerors, yet you speak of friendship. You have power that could make you tyrants, yet you speak of loneliness. Morath paused. I believe you. I believe that you want peace and friendship. Perhaps it takes beings from a death world to truly understand the value of life. Perhaps it takes survivors to understand the importance of not being alone. The representative turned to address the full assembly. I propose that the Galactic Union officially welcomes humanity as a member species. They have shown themselves to be capable, compassionate, and trustworthy. The rescue at Kalas 7 proved that they will risk themselves to protect others. These are not the actions of enemies. These are the actions of friends. Another wave of applause swept through the hall. This time, it was even louder. Professor Telvix returned to the podium. The old teacher looked at Yuna and the other humans with something like wonder. I will need to rewrite my entire curriculum, Telvix said, and there was humor in the professor's voice now. I will need to add a new chapter to every textbook. I think I know what to call it. What? Someone called out from the crowd. Telvix's forearms spread wide in a gesture that the translation matrix conveyed as a smile. Earth, the death world that said yes. The assembly ended an hour later. Students and teachers filed out of the great hall, still talking about everything they had seen and heard. The universe had changed today. A new species had officially joined the Union, and nothing would ever be quite the same. Yuna walked out with her friends. Jiwoo was holding her arm. Taiho walked beside them with Minho and Sora. 5 humans among thousands of aliens, yet somehow, they no longer felt out of place. That was a good speech, Taiho said quietly. I did not plan it, Yuna admitted. I just said what I felt. That is why it was good. They reached the observation deck, a platform with huge windows that looked out at the stars. The Laura Prime hung in the distance, blue and beautiful. Thousands of other stars dotted the darkness, each one a sun with its own worlds, its own wonders. Do you think it will really change things? Sora asked. She was the youngest of them, only 17, with a quiet voice and thoughtful eyes. Yes, Yuna said. Not immediately. Change takes time. There will still be people who fear us, people who distrust us. But today was a start. A real start. Minho nodded. He was a tall young man with a serious face, but there was warmth in his eyes. My grandmother always said that friendship is not built in a day. It is built one conversation at a time, one shared meal at a time, one act of kindness at a time. Your grandmother sounds wise, Jiwoo said. She was. She lived through hard times on Earth, wars and disasters. But she always believed in people. She always said that connection is stronger than fear. They stood together, looking out at the stars. 5 humans, so far from home, yet closer to where they belonged than they had ever been. Behind them, the academy hummed with life. Students from dozens of species walked through the corridors, talked in the common rooms, studied in the libraries. Somewhere, Professor Telvix was already working on that new chapter. Somewhere, Representative Morath was sending messages to other council members, preparing for the formal admission of humanity into the Union. The future was uncertain, as it always was. There would be challenges and conflicts and misunderstandings. There would be moments of doubt and fear.